Monday morning, 6 o'clock. The alarm rings and, for a few seconds, consciousness hesitates to return. The body wants to stay in bed. Something deeper wants stillness, but another force pulls harder. Bills, responsibilities, deadlines. Within minutes, the ritual begins. Coffee, shower, traffic, emails, schedules. A silent choreography repeated by billions of people every day. Almost nobody calls it by its real name. A transaction. Life being exchanged. Modern civilization runs on a simple agreement that is rarely spoken aloud. People give pieces of their time in exchange for money. Hours that once belonged entirely to the person living them become property of someone willing to pay for them. At the end of the month, a salary appears. It looks like income, but it is also evidence. Evidence that a portion of life has already been spent. The strange thing is how natural this feels. The system has existed for so long that it rarely provokes discomfort. It feels inevitable, almost like gravity. But if we step back far enough into human history, something unsettling becomes visible. For most of our species' existence, time was not sold. Human life followed rhythms of nature. Sunrise meant activity, night meant rest. Survival depended on hunting, gathering, farming, protecting the tribe. Effort served life directly, not an abstract system of value. Then something remarkable appeared. Exchange. A fish for grain, a tool for meat, a skin for a blade. Barter was cooperation, a clever solution to scarcity. One person had excess, another had need. Trade balanced both. Villages formed around this idea. Trade routes expanded it. Cities eventually grew from it. Centuries later came coins, then wages, then financial systems capable of measuring almost everything. And somewhere along that transformation, something deeper happened. Humanity began trading time. Money is rarely understood in its most intimate form. People see paper, metal, or numbers on a screen. But money represents something else. Condensed human effort, stored attention, energy that once existed inside a living body, days that can never return. Karl Marx noticed something disturbing in the 19th century. When a worker sells labor, what is truly being sold is not just effort. It is a fragment of life. Labor transforms living time into economic value. And this mechanism built the modern world. Cities rose where forests once stood. Technology reshaped the planet. Medicine extended human life. Comfort spread through societies. None of this can be denied, but every achievement carries a cost. Walk through any large city early in the morning and you can begin to see it. Faces half awake on crowded trains. People answering work messages late into the night. Parents arriving home after their children have already fallen asleep. Vacations awaited like oxygen after long submersion. None of this happens because people are foolish. Most people are simply trying to survive with dignity. Housing must be paid. Food must be bought. Security must be maintained. Money became the universal key to survival. And because of that, the exchange became deeper. In the past, humans worked to live. Today, many people must sell parts of their lives just to maintain the right to exist within society. The Roman philosopher Seneca wrote something unsettling almost 2,000 years ago. It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it. Even in ancient Rome, he saw something familiar. Large portions of life are spent doing things we never freely chose, but accepted because they seemed necessary. This is the invisible engine of modern civilization. We work to earn money. We earn money to sustain life. And we sustain life so that we can continue working. The cycle feels logical, but beneath that logic hides a simple truth. If money comes from labor, and labor consumes time, then every coin carries a fragment of human life. Once this becomes visible, a paycheck begins to look different. Not just as income, but as evidence that time, something irreversible, has already been spent. And suddenly the question is no longer economic. It becomes existential. How much of your life are you willing to trade to keep living? In early human societies, exchange was simple. A hunter traded meat, a farmer traded grain, a craftsperson traded tools. There were no banks or financial markets, only human needs meeting human resources. But hidden inside that simplicity was a powerful idea: value. In the 18th century, Adam Smith argued that the real measure of value is human labor. Price, in the end, reflects the effort required to produce something. This insight changed how societies functioned. Once effort becomes measurable, time itself begins to acquire value. The world slowly transforms into an accounting system of human energy. For centuries, this still followed natural rhythms. Farmers worked with the seasons. Sunlight determined activity. Rest arrived when the body demanded it. But the Industrial Revolution changed everything. Factories appeared. Schedules became rigid. Clocks began regulating human bodies. Work stopped being something people did. It became a system people entered. Karl Marx described the shift clearly. In industrial society, workers do not simply sell products. They sell their capacity to work. Their labor power becomes a commodity. And once labor becomes a commodity, the human being enters the marketplace. Hours can be purchased. Days can be sold. Decades can be converted into wages. Anthropologist David Graeber showed that money also creates obligations. Debt, contracts, and financial systems tie individuals into networks of responsibility and power. Modern civilization is built upon these relationships, and the achievements are undeniable. Cities, hospitals, universities, technologies connecting billions of people. None of this exists without organized labor. But something new emerged alongside progress: life measured in productivity. The question slowly shifted from what needs to be done to what is each hour worth. That shift changed how humans experience time. Activities are evaluated by output. Rest feels inefficient. Stillness feels unproductive. The phrase "time is money" captures this mindset perfectly. Every minute must justify itself. And slowly an inversion appears. Work no longer serves life. Life reorganizes itself around work. Alarms dictate waking hours. Calendars dictate movement. Weekends become small islands of recovery. And somewhere inside this structure, a quiet philosophical question emerges. When did time stop being something to live and become something to manage? Nature does not recognize salaries. Mountains do not charge rent. Rivers do not require bank accounts. For most of human history, survival depended directly on the natural world. Food came from hunting and farming. Shelter came from wood and stone. Knowledge of the land determined survival. Life was harsh, but simple in its logic. Effort led directly to living. The philosopher Jean-Jacques Rousseau noticed something troubling about the rise of civilization. "Man is born free," he wrote, "and everywhere he is in chains." Civilization brought enormous progress. Medicine eliminated diseases that once devastated populations. Technology connected continents. Cities allowed cooperation on an unprecedented scale. But it also introduced new forms of dependence. Modern historian Yuval Harari argues that much of civilization rests on shared fictions: money, corporations, financial systems. They exist because billions of people believe in them simultaneously. Money, in particular, is powerful because it mediates survival. A wild animal needs to find food. A modern human needs to earn income. The food still exists, but money now stands between the person and the meal. This shift changed everything. You no longer need to grow food. You only need to pay for it. Civilization offers stability and comfort, but it requires continuous participation in the economic system. Electric grids must be maintained. Hospitals must be funded. Infrastructure must be repaired. Millions of people perform specialized tasks every day to keep society functioning. And the more complex the system becomes, the more dependent people become on it. Without money, the city stops functioning as shelter. Food remains on shelves but out of reach. Comfort and technology become inaccessible displays. This is the central trait of modern life. Freedom from nature has been replaced by dependence on economic systems, which raises an uncomfortable question. How much freedom are we willing to exchange for security? And when survival depends entirely on money, how free are we really? A job title, a bank balance, a house, a car, a collection of possessions. These things silently determine how individuals are perceived in modern society. At some point in history, a subtle transformation occurred. People began to be valued less for who they are and more for what they have. Philosopher Erich Fromm described this shift as the difference between two modes of existence, being and having. In the mode of being, identity arises from experience, character, and presence. In the mode of having, identity arises from possession. Modern societies strongly reward the second. Objects communicate status. Wealth signals success. Consumption becomes a form of identity. Philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer observed something uncomfortable about desire. Satisfaction rarely ends it. Instead, it produces new desires. What once felt luxurious becomes ordinary. What once felt sufficient becomes inadequate. The horizon of satisfaction moves forward endlessly. Sociologist Zygmunt Bauman described this dynamic clearly. Consumer society does not need satisfied people, it needs dissatisfied ones. Desire must constantly regenerate. Expectations must keep rising. The result is a permanent sense of incompleteness. Possessions promise meaning, but rarely deliver it for long. Careers are built around goals disconnected from inner purpose. Years of life are exchanged for objects that quickly lose emotional power. Meanwhile, something more fragile becomes scarce. Presence. Time shared with other people. Moments that cannot be bought. The problem was never comfort itself. The problem appears when having replaces living. When accumulation quietly becomes the central meaning of life. And then a simple question appears. When did owning things stop being a tool and become the purpose of existence? A salary shows what was earned, but it rarely shows what was spent. Not money, time. A typical life may last around 80 years. That sounds long, but mathematics can be cruel. 40 years of full-time work can easily exceed 90,000 hours. 90,000 hours of life spent inside a system. Philosopher Martin Heidegger described human existence as being toward death, not as pessimism, but as clarity. Life is finite. Every day moves closer to its end. And yet most people organize life around a promise. Work now, live later, sacrifice the present in exchange for a future moment called retirement. Psychiatrist Viktor Frankl observed something remarkable about people nearing the end of life. Their deepest regrets rarely concern money. Instead, they concern time not shared, relationships neglected, experiences postponed indefinitely. Work is necessary. Civilization cannot exist without effort. But the question raised here is not about work. It is about awareness. Every paycheck represents hours already gone. Every promotion represents new commitments made with life itself. And life, unlike money, cannot be replenished, which leads to an uncomfortable realization. Every exchange of time for money is not merely economic, it is existential. Money built civilization, hospitals, science, infrastructure. No honest person can deny this. Money-enabled cooperation on a scale no other species has achieved. But powerful tools can reshape the purpose of life itself. In the 19th century, Henry David Thoreau retreated to a small cabin near Walden Pond. He did not go there to escape the world. He went to see it clearly. He wanted to confront what he called the essential facts of life. What he discovered was unsettling. Many things people consider necessary are actually social expectations. The philosopher Nietzsche warned about a similar danger. The greatest risk is not suffering. The greatest risk is living without questioning the values that organize life. A person can live decades without ever asking why. Money, career, stability, achievement, all of these have value, but they also have a cost. And that cost is often invisible. Time. The clock never pauses to ask whether the direction still makes sense. Years accumulate faster than expected. Routine compresses decades into memories. And throughout that entire process, the exchange continues. Salaries arrive. Bills are paid. Projects continue. But with every payment received, something invisible has already been given. Hours of life. No fortune can buy them back. No system can restore them. Time moves in only one direction, which leaves one final question. Not about money, not about work, but about life itself. How much of your existence is worth exchanging for survival inside this system? Because every time money enters your hands, something else has already left. Time. And time is the only currency that can never be recovered.